All right, so last week was not great. As we knew, the Chicago Bears, or as we know, the Chicago Bears lost against the Minnesota Vikings 27-24. This week we are facing the Detroit Lions at Ford Field, which means this is Ben Johnson's homecoming game. And you know Lions fans are going to be booing loud as hell when Ben Johnson runs out the tunnel and takes the field for the first time. So we are playing this game, like I said, at Ford Field. It's going to be at 12 p.m. Central for those of you Bears fans in Chicago. It's going to be, like I've already said, it's at Ford Field, but this is going to be an important game for us, as is any divisional game, but it is more important, especially since we lost that Week 1 game, and we are now trying to avoid going 0-2, and honestly, even more so important because the Lions also lost last week to the Green Bay Packers, got absolutely destroyed by Green Bay, which upsets me because they also won on Thursday Night Football against a great team in the Commanders. So, yeah, our back's against the wall here, guys. You obviously know that the Detroit Lions are a very talented roster and on paper should beat us, no problem, considering how bad we did last week in the past game and how we struggled after the first few drives against Minnesota. And keep in mind, this is not J.J. McCarthy we're going against. This is Jared Goff, who has a ton of experience in this league, has been in the league now for, I believe this is his 10th season, so it's been pretty much a decade that he's been in the league, whereas last week it was J.J. McCarthy's first ever NFL game. So, going against experience, you're not going to be able to shut down Jared Goff the same way we shut down J.J. McCarthy for the first 3 quarters of that football game. Now, that would be great if we did. I'm not counting on it. But really quick, before I go over, offensive defense for both teams, I do want to go over the injury report here, which I'm going to throw that up on the screen. It is on my other screen here. Players so far that are out are linebacker, for the Lions that is, our linebacker Trevor Noeski, I believe, with an elbow injury. He's out. Sion Vaki, which I believe is their third string running back, is out with a hamstring injury. He's doubtful, actually, but we know doubtful pretty much just means out. Taylor Decker, he is questionable, but with a shoulder injury, but he did not practice on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Not a single bit of practice, and usually when you do not practice throughout the week, it pretty much means you're not going to play in the game. So I think for this game, we might, once again, the Bears might be going up against a team without their star left, well, not star, but at least their better left tackle. So look for Dale to have a really good game against whoever their backup is. I don't believe they have anyone that good at backup, but it is the Detroit Lions, and I trust their offensive line coach, Fraley, I believe his name is, Hank Fraley, to do a good job with that. I don't think he's going to have as much success against their left tackle as we did last week. But Kirby Joseph is also questionable, but it did seem like he got a limited practice on Friday, so I expect him to play too, but he might not be 100%. Terry Arnold will play, Jack Campbell will play, and Daniel Thomas, the safety, will play for them. As for the Bears, Kyler Gordon is out for a second straight week, and this pains me because we are going up against a team that puts Amon-Ra in the slot a lot. And Kyler Gordon, being a slot corner, he was the guy that would have to go against Amon-Ra. And obviously, we know Amon-Ra is a top 10 receiver in this league, but not having Kyler Gordon, man, I know Kyler Gordon is not a complete shutdown cornerback, but he is one of the better slot corners in his league. So not having that in for the lineup is going to suck against us. I don't know who's, the backup for the Bears at the slot position, but he's going to have his work cut out for him likely. So moving on to Ja'Day Walker, he's doubtful. That pretty much means he's out. So I'm not sure if he played last week. If not, we didn't see him at all. Grady Jarrett is questionable. He did have a limited practice on Friday, so he is questionable. Josh Blackwell, TJ Edwards, Jalen Johnson, Roshan Johnson, and DJ Moore all practice in full on Friday. No injury status there. And we're looking to have TJ Edwards and Jalen Johnson back for the first time this season. So 2 studs on defense, arguably our 2 best defensive players on the Bears defense back for this game. So this should really help out for the Bears. Outside of that, man, we're going to go ahead and go into the Lions offense. So obviously, like I mentioned before, they have not only an amazing roster, but they just have a bunch of blue chip players. Starting off with the offensive lineman, Taylor Decker not being there does help, but you still have was there Frank? No, Frank Ragnow retired, right? Was there no Graham Glasgow? Sorry, I mix up those two guys. Graham Glasgow in there. They still have Penei Sewell, who's pretty much the best tackle in the league, and then at running back, you've got an amazing duo in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, the former Bear. Obviously, we mentioned Jared Goff being a solid quarterback. And then you've got amazing receiver combos in Amon-Ra, who's a top 10 receiver, probably the best pure slot receiver in the league. And then you got Jameson Williams, who's a good complement to Amon-Ra. And then you have a top 10 tight end in Sam Laporta. So obviously, we know that this offense is star-studded. But the big thing here is, and this is pretty much the reason why they lost last week, at least in my opinion, this is why they lost, is that their new offensive coordinator, John Morton, he is the new offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. And similar to how the Bears are and how I'm kind of seeing how our season will play out, I think they are going to take a little bit of time getting adjusted. Now, because, like I said, they have amazing talent, I think they're going to be able to pick up on that a little faster than the Chicago Bears. So our defense has their work cut out for them, and even if it's John Morton, Ben Johnson, whoever, this offense is still lethal. I don't think that we're just going to be able to stop them the same way that we stopped J.J. McCarthy for 3 quarters last week. Now going on to their defense, a little weaker. Like I said, they got gashed last week. Did pretty good against the run, held Jacobs to a sub 3-point yard per carry, 3-point-something yards per carry, but led a lot of big plays downfield. Jordan Love literally had like a 70-yard scoring drive in 2 plays. So, they're going to look to fix that. Obviously, them not having Trevor Nowaski, is not going to do a ton of damage to them, especially when they have Terrion Arnold back and Jack Campbell. So they'll be fine there. Obviously, they have Alex Anzalone. Aiden Hutchinson is back. Didn't do much last week. I don't even think he recorded a stat, funny enough, last week. But he'll still do really good against this Bears offensive line just because he's an amazing player. Maybe he's ramping up a little bit because he's coming back from a gruesome leg injury he suffered last year against the Cowboys, but I still think he's going to be a game wrecker. And then on top of that, you have Aleem McNeil, who's also a top defensive tackle in this league, along with rookie Tyleik Williams, who could very well be a very good DT in this league as well. On top of that, you got Brian Branch as safety. I mean, this team just all around, offense and defense, and then even on special teams, their kicker, I'm blanking on his name right now. Jack something, I believe, or whatever it is. But he's really good. Or Jake Bates. I'm sorry. Jake Bates is his name. He's a really good kicker as well. So this team just has a lot of talent. I think right now they're just working through the motions of not having their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, both of whom went to separate teams to be head coaches. So now they just need to get a little bit more ramped up and getting used to their schemes on both sides of the ball. So I still think they're going to be a very good team. Now moving on to the Chicago Bears. Like I said, the Bears are without Kyler Gordon and may or may not be without Grady Jarrett. Not too sure if he's going to play. I don't really know. Kyler Gordon is kind of hurts for me though. Obviously, when you're going against Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're going to want your best player in there, and not having a guy like Kyler Gordon against him hurts. But we do get Jalen Johnson back. We do get TJ Edwards back. Nashawn Wright had a very up and down week last week. Obviously started off pretty bad and then, made up for it with a pick 6. So he could be solid. You still have Tyreek Stevenson in there. You still have Josh Blackwell. So that's really good for us. Ja'Day Walker on offense obviously is going to be out. But starting off with the Bears defense, like I said, I need more from our pass rush. Obviously last week we did good, but that was also because the Vikings offensive line did not have Christian Darrisaw, which is a huge loss for the Vikings. They also have a rookie left guard playing, and they have 2 guys on the offensive line, which is center Will Fries and center Ryan Kelly and right guard Will Fries, who are on a new team. And that offensive line, same thing with the Bears, are going to need more time to get that chemistry going and to gel together. So you're not going to see the same thing that you saw last week against the Vikings versus the Detroit Lions because they have a lot more studs on the offensive line. Even if they're without Taylor Decker, this isn't Penei Sewell they're losing. This is a solid tackle, but nothing amazing. So I want at least similar production from them if we can, because like we know, Jared Goff, once he gets pressure on him, he turns into a subpar quarterback. So, and that's exactly what happened against the Packers last week when they faced the Packers. But on top of that, more than anything, we need to stop the run game. We did a pretty decent job last week against Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason for the majority of the game up until our offense stalled. And at that point, nothing much you could really do there. So I need the sort of same performance in terms of like the first 3 quarters from last week. We need that to happen this week. We need to do exactly what the Packers did, which is stop Jahmyr Gibbs. Do not let him get going, because if he gets going, the rest of the team gets going. If you shut him down, you shut down pretty much the entire team. He is really the guy that makes this offense churn. So, I'm looking at Dennis Allen. I'm looking at, Montez Sweat, Deo, Dexter, not Dexter Lawrence. What is his name? Javon Dexter and Andrew Billings to go ahead, create pressure, and stop Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Do not let that run game get going. Now, as for the Bears offense, Caleb Williams. He played really good that first maybe 2 drives of last week, and then we just reverted to having a pretty terrible offense as we're used to as Bears fans. We need more from Caleb, straight up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Caleb did not play too well last week. Now, I will say, guys like Kurt Warner and some other better names out there, better analysts, did say that they actually liked what they saw from Caleb last week, but they just think that he plays a little too fast. So, listen, I'll take their word for it. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I do kind of see where Caleb was playing a little too quick, and he needs to just slow himself down and let things develop and just, play his game. But at the same time, some of those accuracy issues are very concerning, and we need him to clean that up if we have any chance of winning this game. Now for Ben Johnson, please use Kyle Monangai. Please stop running with DeAndre Swift up the middle or DJ Moore. Yes, I like them as running backs or as whatever in the scheme, if you use them correctly, but let's stop running DeAndre Swift like he's Derrick Henry. He's not. I would have liked us to go ahead and grab another running back before the season began, like I have been saying. But Kyle Monangai, man, you used him in the 7th round. You drafted him in the 7th round. I'm not saying that's like a first-round pick or anything, but you got him 0 carries last week. That cannot happen this week, man. Especially when Caleb Williams last week was our leading rusher. That cannot happen again. I do not want to see Caleb, honestly, with more than 20 rushing yards. If he needs to run just because he needs to run and he needs to pick up a first down on 3rd down or a touchdown on a 3rd and goal, fine. So be it. But I do not want Caleb ever to be our leading rusher with like 50, 60 rushing yards. You're just not going to win football games like that. So now on to my prediction. Who do I think is going to win? This right now comes down to scheme. And I think for the Bears, for the Bears and Lions, honestly, both being in a position where they're getting used to new play callers on both sides of the ball. I think it comes down at the end when you see that we're both in same positions. It comes down to talent, roster talent, and unfortunately, as we know, no Bears fan would disagree with me on this. On paper, the Lions have much more talent than the Bears. Not to say that the Bears are devoid of talent, but when you got guys on offense like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, you've got an experienced quarterback in Jared Goff, you've got an offensive line that has Penei Sewell already right there off to a great start. And then you move on to the receivers with Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And when you got a rising star rookie, I didn't even mention earlier too, and Isaac Tesla, who made an amazing catch last week and looked really good in preseason. When you have all of that, and then on defense, you have Aiden Hutchinson and Brian Branch and Terrion Arnold and Jack Campbell and Anzalone and Lee McNeil. I mean, so many stars. I'm sorry, guys. I do not think the Bears win here. I'd be very, very shocked if the Bears are somehow able to march into Ford Field and walk out with a victory. I would love it. I would love it. It would jumpstart the season and it would make up for everything last week. But unless Ben Johnson somehow fixes all the issues from last week, this week against the Lions of all teams, I just don't see it happening. And I don't think it's going to be a very close game. I do think we lose by 2 scores. So unfortunately, I am going to give the Lions here the victory. I'm going to go with a score of 28-17. Not so much because I think they're going to destroy us on the ground, but similar to last week and similar to just Bears football in general. We do good on defense. And then towards the end, when our offense just can't get anything going, we get too tired and eventually everything just goes downhill. And I think that's how the game goes. It'll be maybe close and low scoring for the majority. 4th quarter hits, And eventually our defense gives up because our offense can't do anything. And they go ahead and on a run, and we go ahead and lose 28-17. Now, I really hope I'm wrong here. I really hope if we are going to lose, it would be like a close scoring game similar to last week in a much different fashion. But I don't think that we're going to win this game. Let me know what you guys think, man. If you think that I'm wrong, just tell me. If you think we have a chance at winning, let me know some score predictions down below. Bear down, I'm out.